Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another beginner's guide. This time we're doing the beginner's guide for the blue baby deck out of set 21, which I think more and more people are gonna start playing and topping with once the tournament pack situation is figured out. The TP required to play this deck at a competitive level is kind of expensive right now, so I think that's what's kind of holding back baby representation. But as time goes on, more and more TPs will circulate, and this deck will, I think, be played more and more. So it's worth it for me to show you guys how to play the deck, at least with the first 4 turns, because it is an aggro deck, and generally turn 4 is like what you're looking to get to and win the game. So that being said, if you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. And if you guys want to buy any of the cards for this deck, or any trading cards at all for that matter, it does really help me out if you were to use my link in the description to TCG Player. I really do appreciate it. So we have here our leader and our field card on the board. Let's go ahead and just do a sample initial draw. And for this assumption and for this beginner's guide in general, we'll assume we've gone first like we have been, and we'll kind of just simulate what our opponent might be doing. So overall, this starting hand's actually pretty bad. You could consider keeping one Brainwash card, but honestly, I'd rather just full mulligan and try to get a Vegeta. So since we didn't draw anything too great, we'll throw everything back to the main deck bottom, and we'll just look through our deck here just to get a good hand to start with, because you guys want to see what an optimal hand looks like, right? So we go through here. If you ever hit your SCR in your opening hand, definitely 110% keep that card in your opener. But really all we need, like absolutely need, is a 1-drop Vegeta and maybe like one Brainwash. That's all we really want or need to start with. So we'll shuffle up here, we'll put these 2 cards in our hand, and then we'll just draw 4 different cards to simulate our mulligan. Alright, handful of Brainwash, definitely can't really complain about it. So we'll go ahead and set our life. Now, here we'll charge, we're going first. So we have a few options here. So depending on matchup, you could totally go ahead and charge a negate. Like if you're up against like an Android 21 or something a lot slower, you can go ahead and charge a negate, or you can definitely charge one of pretty much any of these Brainwash cards, possibly the Bulma, maybe the Trunks. I'd probably keep the Bulla, just my personal opinion. But let's just go ahead and say we can charge our negate and pretty much get away with it. So what I like to start with here is just playing a 1-drop Vegeta. Although, to be honest, like rethinking it, since we have so many Brainwash in our hand, the odds of us using our field effect, which is activate main, place a mono blue Vegeta with a cost of 1 or 1 Brainwash under this card and then draw one, our odds of drawing another Brainwash are pretty low. And just by doing that like simple sort of math, I'm just going to tuck one first and draw a card. The reason I'm doing that is because it technically makes my 1-cost Vegeta more likely to hit. Although, I mean, I would have hit off that anyway. But still, like very minor statistics game we're playing there. So we're going to go ahead and play our 1-drop. We're going to look at the top 5. Search whatever it is we want or need. So in this particular hand, I already have Goten, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab Gohan. And this one's good to keep in hand as well for whenever you want the double strike, although it's still just as good to play it from under the field as a free 20k body. Doesn't get the double strike, but hey, that's okay. So this comes to our hand. We pretty much pass turn here because obviously we can't attack. Our opponent does what they do. They charge a card, they maybe play a cantrip, and they swing at us. Now, a lot of decks right now are comboing turn 1 cantrips to make Z energy. So if my opponent comboed their 1-drop, I would go ahead and combo my 1-drop because I still want to take this damage just to see the extra life, because why not, right? So let's assume that's what they do. If they didn't combo a cantrip, I'd probably just take the damage and then attack and combo my 1-drop on my own turn. So that's just a little bit of like a nuance there. But we took a damage here. We charge Z energy. They pass back to us. Very simple turn 1. We draw for turn. We untap. Now, desperate measures you totally want to keep in hand if you're up against blue or yellow, and possibly some other random decks here and there in other colors, because it's our main answer to floodgate cards. But for the purpose of this example, I'm just going to go ahead and charge it because it's just the easiest card to charge. Alright, now we can totally go ahead and start with our field card, just going ahead and tucking a Brainwash to draw a card. And that's what's so great about this deck, is how much it cycles through itself. Now, seeing 3 super combos here is getting a little bit annoying, although it's something I shouldn't complain about because it's very powerful. But yeah, it's making our hand a little bit less flexible. But we'll go ahead and attack with our leader here. We're going to draw 2 new cards anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much. We'll go ahead and tuck the Trunks. We will draw 2 cards. And we'll just, say 10k, do whatever it is we have to do there. Now we have our Z deck play. So we're going to go into our Z deck. And this is pretty much what you want to do on every single turn too. Especially going first, there's almost nothing that should be able to counterplay this. Going second, you might run into something that can counterplay this. You want to be very careful of that. But we're going to go ahead and play Baby Parasitic Premonition. Now, with the Z stack, we're going to go back into our Z deck, and we're going to go ahead and tuck the 4-drop Baby underneath it. and this of course costs our 1 Z energy. And it's actually quite important that that Z energy be a Vegeta, because to use this baby's other effect, you have to take a Vegeta GT from your drop and put it under this card. It could also come from under your field card, which is fine, but I mean, typically it's coming from your drop. So now that we've played this card, we can look at the top 7 and we can tuck 1 more card under our field. So let's take a look at the top 7. What I'm going to grab here, I mean, pretty short on options, so I'm just going to grab a copy of Gohan, put that under there. Now that gives us our 4 cards under our field that we need in order to use our alternate awaken. So we can totally go ahead and do that. So I'll take a life, I'll untap an energy, and I'll draw a card. And there's usually a lot we can do on this turn. Keep in mind, our opponent has to have 2 or more energy for us to get the double strike on Gohan. So probably don't want to play this from our hand this turn. However, the great thing about the Z deck play is that it gives us a guaranteed 4-cost baby to play, which then triggers our universal teleportation plan to allow us to play a brainwashed for free. And don't forget that effect can only be used when you're on your unawakened side, right? So I really don't want to be playing 4-cost babies until I'm on my awakened side, which is definitely easy enough to do on turn 2. So we'll go ahead and use Parasitic Premonition's effect. We pay 1, we take a Vegeta from the drop, we put it under the 1-cost baby, and then we get to play the 4-cost baby. Now that we've played the 4-cost baby, we can play any of our brainwash from under our UTP. And I'll probably go ahead and play Gohan here. Again, it does not gain any sort of double strike. It is going to be a 20k beater. But Goten probably isn't removing anything this turn. I mean, obviously, if your opponent has a card you need to kill, you want to go ahead and play Goten. And Bullet and Trunks are much better on defense, so I'm going to leave them under there. Don't forget, too, though, that Baby Parasitizing Complete can also serve as removal. So that's definitely quite nice as well. So we would go ahead here and just attack with this baby, attack with this Gohan, and then we would definitely want to use our leader effect to bottom deck the Gohan, get that Overlord and Servant going. So we got an additional draw here, and we could do a couple other things too. Like if we wanted to draw more cards, we could go ahead and play Bulma, which draws a card herself on play, and then bottom deck her with Overlord, but I also want to keep her in hand to use her combo ability. But I did draw into a cantrip here, which is very, very nice. It just uses our last energy very efficiently. So I'll go ahead and play Vegeta Serving Harbinger, search top 5, grab whatever it is I need. In this case, I guess I'll grab a bullet since I have another Goten in hand. That's perfectly fine. We'll shuffle up there. And yeah, we went for 3 damage on our opponent's 1 energy that turn, which is definitely kind of nice. And then we're gearing up for big turn 3s and turn 4s. So we'll go back to our opponent's turn. Let's just say, you know, we take a damage. Let's say we combo out of an attack with this Vegeta. And, you know, on turn 2, hopefully Baby survives here. But depending on matchup, because obviously it has protection from being KO'd, so there's that. But there's also the fact that you can combo Bola from under UTP to protect it if they swing at it, which is nice. And a lot of decks are not going to be able to kill a battle card on turn 2 if they're a bit slower. So it kind of really depends on the matchup. But let's just hope for the best and say this thing survived. Totally doesn't have to, but let's say it did. So now we'll go into our turn 3. Again, in this example, we have gone first. So we can go ahead and charge D-Magic because we're just full greedy. We're planning to kill our opponent this turn or the next. So we have a few things we can do on this turn. Quite a few things, actually. We could totally go for Goku and Oob Newfound Journey, which is going to, 1, replace itself, which is nice. In this deck, there's so many search targets, and it's a 15k dual attacker, so it just helps apply that pressure. Now, this card is a little matchup dependent, only in the sense that, like, if your opponent has a Senzu Bean type of effect, this card's a little bit less effective, right? Because you're swinging 15s into 20ks, and that's not going to be as great. But if your opponent has a Z battle card in play, I do very much like this for the removal because it doesn't put the opponent's card back in their hand. It puts it just removes it from the game. So I do quite like that. So if we had gone second, there's a really big play we can do with Baby Shining Gold Evil Life Form. But since we went first, we can't play this card yet. Our opponent has to have 3 or more energy. So I think in that specific scenario, we have a lot of great options, actually. So we can definitely go ahead and swing with our leader, which can either take a card from our opponent's drop area, which if you're playing against a deck that really relies on their drop, taking a card out of that is really, really good. Or, of course, you can look at the top 5 and stack a Brainwash. We can, of course, use our field card effect to tuck a Brainwash. In this case, I'll probably actually tuck Bola and draw a card. And then we have a few options. So I already talked about Goku Oob. We can go ahead and play that just for pressure. That swings out twice. Baby swings out once. And then we can play Baby Bitter Revenge on Saiyans as both just another 1-cost 20k beater because we do have a Z battle card in play that allows us to play this. And we can just stack our UTP. So we'll go ahead and just look through our deck, see what kind of Brainwash cards we have. So we can just throw a copy of Gohan, why not? And we can throw a copy of Trunks. And now we played a 4-cost baby, so we can use our UTP's auto to go ahead and play a Brainwash. So why not go ahead and play a copy of Trunks? Again, if you have something on your opponent's board that you need to remove, go ahead and play that Goten, but let's just say we don't. So we're swinging out with baby, we're swinging out with Trunks, and then we're getting that Overlord ability, bottom decking that, drawing a card. Now our opponent does have 2 or more energy, so you're totally welcome to go ahead and play Gohan. You can also use your leader's ability, take a life, give it 5k, so that's 25k double strike on top of all the other swings that turn. Depending on matchup, that can be a whole lot of aggression. And hey, we drew Chilled Army Reinforcement, which is very, very nice. Now, again, depending on matchup, tapping out there might not have been correct. Also, depending on matchup, we'd probably have a couple of these negates in our hand. So it really all just does depend, but this is just like the max potential of the aggro the deck can put out, right? So we done all that. Let's go back to our opponent's turn. Who knows, maybe we use a super combo. So in this case, best card to bottom deck, probably Baby Bitter Revenge on Sands, since I don't think we're really going there on turn 4. So we'll draw 2 cards. Oh my god, we drew the SCR. Absolutely beautiful. This is a great example of what we'll be able to do next. I wish I drew my SCR this much in actual gameplay, but that's alright. Let's say, who knows, let's say they kill our Gohan. Let's say they kill our Z battle card. Normally I just put Z cards in the warp because we're not really recycling them. And yeah, I don't know. Let's say they kill our entire board. Let's say they're really running on all cylinders. Our entire board's gone. Maybe we block or negate it out of 1 attack, putting us to 3 life. Who knows, right? So we have a block or negate in play. I just clone that. Let's say we blocked with it. All right. So we just like spent through our whole board. We even took a life to defend an attack. Like our opponent went ham. Now it goes back to our turn. We're gearing up for a big, big kill turn here. We're going to go ahead and charge. Probably a 1-drop is fine to charge at this point. We'll go ahead and do that. So we have quite a few options here. What we can do, we can go in into our Gohan Beast if it makes sense to do so. Obviously it depends, like you want to make sure you're going to proc the burn effect. Now what am I bottom decking for this? Probably 1 copy of Goten and probably 1 copy of Bulla. So we go ahead there, we resolve our SCR's effect, and you know it doesn't really matter the order we do this, but we didn't tuck a card under our field yet, so we'll do that. We'll draw a card. I guess if I did that first, I could have tucked this negate if we're going in this turn, but that's okay. So of course, like you want to make sure you're not going to fall into any floodgates here, in which case again we'd probably want to have that copy of Desperate Measures in our hand. But again, we're just looking at the full raw potential of what the deck can do here. So I'll swing out with Gohan, assuming no negates. This is very different usage of Gohan than I typically have used in the past, and most people have used with like the Crimson Leader or Soul Striker, for example, because we don't get too much great value out of swinging with our leader multiple times. So instead what I do here a lot of the time is I untap an energy and the Gohan Beast itself to give it that critical. So we can swing out twice with that. That's 2 40k crit swings, right? Then we can go ahead and play Baby Shining Gold Evil Life Form, and the fact we untapped 1 is going to be pretty important here. So we play this card. This allows us to play 2 Brainwash from under our field for free. So let's just say we play Trunks, let's say we play Goten, and then our field also allows us to play another Brainwash. So that's going to give us 3 Brainwash right there. We can totally just like swing out with everything. That's totally fine. The order obviously again will depend on matchup, but that's a lot of pressure right there, right? And we can of course use our leader ability to buff any of them, probably the Gohan because it's the biggest one, and we don't have to take a life for that. We could take a life for that if we want to get all the resources to our hand possible to kill our opponent. We could also be super comboing on any of these swings. It really just depends on what the game state is, but that's all the pressure we can put out with that. Now we can swing with our leader. Maybe we tuck a card under our field, maybe we absorb a card from our opponent's drop, and then we can also, before we do that actually, you're going to want to use your Overlord. So you are going to want to swing with at least one of these guys, Overlord it to the bottom, get a draw. Now after that, we swing with our leader, and we want to Z Awaken here. So we'll go ahead and go to our Z deck. We will Z Awaken, which is going to cost us 1 energy and 2 of our Z energy. It's always good to just put your Vegeta GTs in the drop because they do things for you in the drop there. So I just throw my leader in the warp here. And we have our Z leader. So that's 20k, right? That's great. Big attack. Again, feel free to super combo. Feel free to do what you got to do. And now we have a new instance of Overlord. So we can go ahead and bottom deck Goten, get another draw. So what I did there was maximize my draw power this turn. I think I had like 9 or 10 cards at the start of the turn. And I bottom decked 2 for playing Gohan, and I just drew a bunch of cards back, and I could have even drawn one more if I took a life on my regular Awakened Leader, right? So that was a whole lot of pressure I put out there. Half my board's missing because I overloaded a bunch of it, but that's a lot of pressure. And let's just say I didn't kill our opponent. Well, we have a battle card with Servant in play, so we get to untap one going into our opponent's turn. So we didn't draw it here, but if we had Android 17 Defending Friends here, that would be a great floodgate for us to try to just buy the next turn with. But I mean, a lot of times after all that pressure we just put out on that turn, our opponent's going to be dead. And obviously the SCR is like a really big component of that. But the deck cycles through so much of itself so quickly that you're going to draw your SCR in a whole lot of games. So that's been my experience with it, at least. But yeah, that's all the way up to turn 4, guys. If you have any questions, please do drop them down in the comments. I want to help you guys get more acclimated with this deck. I do think Gohan Beast is the best SCR for this deck. You could, of course, play some other ones, maybe like Heroine's Lineage if you're on a budget. Baby Hatch is also great on a budget. I don't think the SSB Kaioken Goku that untaps all your energy is all that great because it just forces you to play much later into the game, which I don't think Baby wants to do. It is an aggro deck after all, so you want to be going kind of quick. But if you guys have any questions, again, drop them down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.